Voyager 19, I made that in like 5 weeks. That was small, really small, like 1 hour game. It did 1,400 in the last 31 days.
It sounds like you are more in the camp of making a bunch of small games and stringing those together.
Yeah, it's a lot less risky, and I get to be a lot more creative. All my like bigger games that have done well, it's usually like 1,000 a month minimum. So it's like, I guess that's one of my like arguments for a small game.
Welcome to the Dev Dream Podcast, featuring conversations to keep both you and me inspired in our journey of making games. Today, I got to sit down with Miziziziz, a great YouTuber who's been on the platform for a long time, but is also a really successful game dev. Now, the most fascinating part about our conversation was talking about how he's created a backlog, which is essentially creating a sustainable passive income for him, and all of that leading into his strategy of making a bunch of really quality small games. I also had the opportunity to ask him about one of my favorite dev series on YouTube, which is for Devs One Artkit, and a broad array of other topics in the game dev space. I'm really excited to share this conversation with you today, and if you enjoy it, you can let YouTube know by hitting the subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, you can hit the like button. Here we go. You posted your first video on YouTube about 14 years ago, I saw, and then also have posted consistently for the last 7. So just with someone with so much experience on YouTube, how have you seen the platform change over the years?
I never really paid attention to it until, I started posting like, 7 years ago. Back then it used to be like the only game developers you'd see just did tutorials. You never saw like game dev content or anything like that, everyone just did tutorials. There weren't really anyone who actually had like successful games making videos. It just wasn't a thing. And then I guess about when I started was also when I started seeing like other people doing like devlogs, stuff like that. It used to be more like slightly edited, just kind of people talking about games and stuff, and then it's kind of gradually gotten more, I guess, especially when Danny came in, that was like when you started to really see like highly edited stuff appear. And then it's kind of gradually gotten more and more high production, and then more people making games and releasing them who are actually posting. And that's the main thing. You never used to see people actually like had released games doing videos.
Yeah, I actually saw Danny commented on a video like a month ago, and I think that's the first time he's been back. So maybe he's teasing a return. So we'll see. Do you remember 14 years ago is a long time, but maybe also 7 years ago? Just why did you want to start YouTube and share some of your game dev stuff? Do you remember?
So I think the 14 years ago video, that's just like a Minecraft video, right? I think
so. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just making a video to show off something I had made, and then I forgot about YouTube. But I originally started doing it just because I was getting close to graduation, and then I was like, oh, I don't really want to work a job. I'd like to make games if I could. And so, but I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was just posting random things, and it didn't really go anywhere. And then once I started working, then I got a lot more serious, because I was like, oh, I really don't want to be doing that. I didn't have a bad job. It was nice, but I was just like, I'd really rather be doing what I want to do and make games and be self-employed. That's really what I want to do. So that was really my main motivation to do YouTube, because that was the only way I saw to actually build a following for my games. And that was what really got me to be serious about it and keep doing it.
Yeah, I definitely have some questions about just kind of how you operate from like the business side, if we can get into those later, but I will stick with your YouTube channel just for now. So, you definitely have like some different flavors of videos. You started with Minecraft, and then you also have tutorial videos, and you also post about your game. So just over the years, what are the different kinds of content you've done, and kind of how has that shifted throughout time?
So I started with tutorials really just because that was the only way I saw that was like a reliable way to build a following when you had no subscribers on YouTube. It just seemed the only way without having to get super lucky. And then I eventually kind of gradually switched. It was like I did that, and then I would kind of experiment with things, and then some of those would work and some of them wouldn't. And it kind of gradually shifted into more like, devlogs started working as I was making more interesting games. And then devlogs, experimental stuff here, like kind of the, how to do PS1 style stuff. I noticed, okay, these like faster, kind of more edited tutorials that aren't really like your usual boring step-by-step kind of slow ones that seem to be doing well. So I did a little more of that. And then, yeah, kind of challenge videos, I guess, with the 4 Devs One Artkit series. That was kind of doing well, but that also was a lot of work, and it wasn't like promoting a game. So it was kind of like, I'd rather put my time into like my devlogs because that has better kind of return, and I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, in addition to your tutorial content, which is really solid, you also one time posted a video, like a tutorial on tutorials, like how to make a good tutorial. So what I see from that is just a passion for teaching and teaching well. So where do you think that comes from for you?
I don't know about passion for teaching. I mean, I like, if it's just like chatting or whatever and sharing ideas, it's fun, it's easy. But when it's like I have to put in work and edit and plan, I don't know. I'm not really that into, I don't actually enjoy it that much. I just kind of did it because I had to. And yeah, I mean, like I made courses to pay the bills. It wasn't like my passion to do courses, and I did tutorials because that was how I saw how to build a following. And it was more like, that video is more just, there's a lot of things that really annoyed me because I used to watch a lot of tutorials when I was learning how to make games, and there's just a lot of stuff that really annoyed me. So I just made that video kind of complaining about everything that I didn't like, and also saying things that worked for me. Because I'm like, well, I figured out some, what's the word, formula that worked, so I'll just share it with everyone else. And yeah, I think most of the ideas in there are pretty good in general and work to this day. There's some that are annoying. I wouldn't have said, like the putting the length of the video in the title. I think that's annoying. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Whenever you would make tutorial videos for YouTube specifically, would you do any work to try to balance kind of like entertainment versus the tutorial side of it? Or were you just kind of strictly like almost more like a classroom in your mind?
Anything funny was kind of like whatever was easy to think of. I didn't think of like, I wouldn't spend a lot of time thinking about how do I make this entertaining. It would just be like, I'll do this, and then, oh, that would be funny to put this, so I'll put that in or something. Like, if it was easy to come up with, then I would add it in. Whereas I wouldn't really like plan like, oh, this part needs a joke or this part needs a joke. Just if it came naturally and it was easy to put in, then I would do it. Yeah.
And you also mentioned one of my favorite game dev series of all time, which is 4 game devs use one Artkit. Like, I just loved those videos. And what makes them so cool is that, I mean, the games would be like amazingly different. Like, it might be a 2D game versus a 3D game, like kind of levels of crazy. And kind of what I'm wondering as we have this conversation, you talk about, kind of your focus of just those take a lot of work and they don't really promote anything. Do you think there's a world where that kind of content could thrive and maybe be sustainable for someone on YouTube?
I mean, definitely there is another popular YouTuber who does only challenge videos, but I don't know how much work they do on it. I don't want to say their name, but they definitely make money off of it. And I mean, there's other challenge YouTuber videos. I think what I've noticed, people who tend to do those they're not as good at making games, so they make those more because they're better at the YouTube, or they're just more interested in the YouTube side of things. So they focus on that, and then, yeah, just doing videos, and challenge videos are exciting and fun, I guess. So it can bring a lot of more people on. And I guess it's a good way for kind of newer people on social, like experienced devs, but are newer on social media, to kind of get noticed and get out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like kind of the maybe one step towards the Mr.Beastification of things. And so, I think a lot of people think negatively about that. Like, it's almost like maybe like candy or like not good content, some people would say. Do you think there's any worry for that with game dev, like with those kinds of styles of videos, that it's somehow taking away from the community or what people are learning at all?
It just depends on who's in it. Like, a lot of like my favorite kind of YouTube videos are just like finding someone who's talented at something and then just watching them be good at it. And it's like, they don't even have to be very good at making videos. It's just naturally going to be interesting to watch and enjoyable just because they're good at it. And so a lot of times when I see challenge videos that are like that, it's then it's really interesting. It's entertaining. You can learn a lot watching it. If it's just like Mr.Beastification, like you said, where it's just it's not people who are actually good at something. They're not really like passionate about it. And then they kind of have to lean more on the editing side and the hype it up side rather than just showing off their skills. Then it's like, yeah, it's not great. But I don't know. It's just all kind of inevitable. And that kind of thing, if it's, what's the hyped kind, not very good, whatever, that'll rise and then that'll fall and it'll kind of die out. But the people who are actually talented doing interesting things, that's always going to last. People will always be interested in that. I mean, people still watch or read about, game developers from the 90s and the 80s who were like really good at what they did because it's interesting and it's fun to watch or fun to read about,
Yeah, I really like that perspective of like even looking back of like, the best people, those are the ones that will actually like stay in our kind of collective consciousness. And the stuff that's kind of just like, video candy, it'll be popular for a moment, but it won't stick around.
Yeah.
So that's an encouraging way to look at it.
Yeah.
Whenever you were doing the 4 Devs One Artkit challenge, did you have any of those challenges that stood out as particularly impressive or fun for you, or did they all kind of blend together?
Yeah, I actually had to pull up the playlist just now to look through and remember because it's been a while. I mean, there were like lots of really cool entries. I mean, I remember, I don't know, my favorite kind of that I did was actually the first one because it was the first time I had watched people play through my game, like an actual video of somebody playing my game from start to finish and giving critique the whole time. And it was like a really good learning experience for me. I felt like that was one of the key points of like me getting better was when I first did that. But as for other people's games, I remember it was, Bryce Boer did a really cool one. That was just, it was really nice vibes, really cool visuals, like little kind of story horror game. That was really cool. And then what were the other? I'm like looking through. There's a bunch of really good ones. I think that was my favorite one that he made. Yeah, I did a lot of cool. I'm pretty happy with most of the ones I did. But yeah, I don't know. We got lucky, or I don't know if we got lucky or I just picked random developers kind of half the time, and they all did really good and made lots of cool, interesting games. They always did something creative. Yeah.
For anyone that hasn't seen the series, like you said, it's been a little bit since you've updated it, but it is really fun. Like it is a really cool series that people should go check out. Something you also use your YouTube channel for is to promote your games, like you mentioned. So you have quite a slate of games, and maybe we'll talk about some of them. But do you have a game that stands out to you as the one you're most proud of?
I mean, I would say probably just Endoparasitic. That was just really fun to make, really interesting from the start. Kind of everything just worked together really well and came together. And it just did really well too. It resonated with a lot of people. It was just such a fun concept. It instantly clicked with everyone else. Easy to sell, fun to make. It was just kind of everything worked. And yeah, I learned a lot doing that too. I got to experiment with a lot of different things. And I think it was not the first time I worked with a writer, it was the first time I worked with a writer from the beginning. And it paid off a lot, I think. And also first time working with voice actors. That was a lot of fun. So,
yeah, that's a lot of cool elements coming together. Can you tell me a little bit about the premise of Endoparasitic and why you think it connected with people so well?
I mean, the basic tagline was monsters rip off 3 of your limbs, and then you only have 1 arm, and you just have to drag yourself around. You play with the mouse, and so you're literally 1 arm, 1 hand in real life and in the game. So everything is mouse controlled, and then you just drag yourself around. You have to load bullets manually into your gun. Very tactile kind of game. And also right from the start, I knew it was like, oh, it'd be really funny if like, okay, we're doing like a typical like lab breakout survival horror thing. Wouldn't it be funny if the main character was a complete asshole and just didn't care and was like, no evacuating. This is more important. The research is more important. And that was the premise. And then I took that to Nessa Cannon, the writer who wrote for it. And she took it from there. But that was a fun premise. And I mean, the mechanics just came from, I think it was from Gorilla Tag. I was like saying how Gorilla Tag, wow, it's really cool. Your physical movements in the real world exactly translate to in the game. And that's how you move. I wonder if I could do that on a PC. Well, and then it was like, well, you have 1 mouse and that's on a 2D plane. So a 2D game where you have 1 hand would make sense. And then it kind of went from there with that.
Yeah, that's super cool. You also did a sequel in Endoparasitic 2 that you somewhat recently released. Did that do well also?
Yeah, pretty well. Not as well. I did a lot more with that, but I also think I did too much. Like, I should have simplified it. I could have cut it down a little and it would have been better. Yeah, I tried a lot more things. Kind of, I had bigger budget and more things. It's like, I think my second best performing game, but yeah, there's things I would have changed, but it still came out pretty good and I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, it was different. I don't know.
Which game was your most successful performing? Was it Endoparasitic 1?
Yeah. Endoparasitic 1 by far, yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Just kind of a random question I saw as I was scrolling through your Steam pages. Why did you change the publisher/developer from Miziziziz to Deeproot Interactive?
I mean, that's just my company. I incorporated a few years back into an LLC, and then that was the recommendation, like, legally to do. And I'm like, well, that's my company name. I'll just put it on my Steam page.
Yeah, cool.
And
So
yeah,
are you still developing solo, or, you mentioned working with some writers and voice actors. Kind of what is your current workflow as far as working with others or not?
I'd say I'm like 90% solo. Like, I kind of have, all right, there's the people I know. I'm trying to experiment a little more with adding people, but it's just like, I like doing small games with a small budget. And so it's like, okay, I make the game, and then if I can do the art myself, I do it. Otherwise, I pay someone else to do the art. And then, yeah, music, you pretty much always hire Jazz Mickle to do the music for my games. And then, yeah, I have like a few people, and it's just like, okay, I make the game, and then, all right, I want 3 music tracks and a little writing. So I reach out to my writer and my artist or my musician, and then I add those in. And it's just like, okay, keeps the budget really small, and then I get something that's better than what I can make on my own. And yeah, makes a better game. And still mostly solo, still have, all the control that I want, kind of.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting kind of conversation happening right now on whether or not, like, financially, so it's better to make a bunch of small games or work on one big game for a long time. And so, like, Thomas Brush has been working on his current game for like 5 years. But then I also recently interviewed a smaller developer named Aramis, and he had this kind of idea that he was working with this other guy to make a game in like 300 working hours, and that was it. And they did it, and they released it, and it did really well. And he thinks he's going to be funded for like the next 16 months, just based off of that one like 90-day game that he made. So it sounds like you are more in the camp of making a bunch of small games and stringing those together.
Yeah, it's a lot less risky, and I get to be a lot more creative. It's a lot more fun, I think. The longest I'd ever worked on a game was with Rot Flesh, which was kind of half and half. I don't know, part-time. I would work on that for like several years, and by the end I was so sick of working on it. Whereas all my other games have only had like few month development times, so I never really got sick of them. I finished it and I put it out, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I could work on it more if I had to, but it's like I never got burnt out on them, and it was more fun creatively. Also, I feel like it is definitely a lot more risky if you're spending a long time on a game. I guess my advice would be, if you're going to do a big game, make sure it's with somebody else's money. If you have a publisher or something. If it's your money, I would do small games and keep your budget really small.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Whenever you're making these small games that you plan to release commercially, what are you kind of looking at in terms of a completed game? Like, do you at all try to look at completed time of play, like for Steam, or is it just kind of a creative vision you have? Kind of how do you consider it a complete game?
Everything starts with kind of the base mechanics for me. Just like, I need to have something that feels good, like the inherent, just like what you're doing moment to moment. That's usually what I come up with first. I'll just have an idea like, oh, it'd be fun if you did a game where you have to move like this or something, And then once I have the base mechanic, then it's like, okay, now I have to make it into something I can sell. And I don't know, I've heard people are like, they don't like the idea of having to try to make money or commercialize their games. They just want to make it a work of art. But for me, I enjoy that side of things, or like trying to make something marketable. Because usually making something marketable means making it more exciting. So that meshes well with me. That works well for me. So I'm like, okay, so the next thing is some kind of interesting visuals, some kind of, tagline, the selling point, it's a survival horror with three of your limbs ripped off, like, okay, that's the tagline, grab people's attention. And then, yeah, some kind of visuals. And the visuals either need to also be a selling point, or they need to get out of the way and not a selling point, or the opposite, whatever, get people to not want it. And then once you have that, then it's like, okay, you have good moment to moment gameplay, you have enough like production polish, and then it's kind of a matter of just make enough content, I guess, which I don't know how I figure that, because it's like, I guess it's kind of intuitive, where I'm just like, okay, I'll make this many levels, and then let's just see how long it takes someone to play through. And then, but I don't really pay attention too much to the full playtime. Like, I think if I can reach like 3 hours, I'm pretty satisfied, because I usually charge around $10 for my games, which is not really that much money if you think about it. Like, you spend a lot more than that just at the grocery store. I mean, that's like a couple, I don't know, fancy chocolate bars or something, like if you go to Whole Foods or whatever. So it's like, okay, it's not that much, but yeah, I feel like if you have an interesting enough concept or whatever you're making is unique enough, it's okay to have a shorter playtime and charge a little more, because, I mean, people, they'll be like, well, I never played anything like this before, so I'm willing to pay a little extra for, the unique experience. Yeah, so I never really think about playtime that much. It's just kind of like, if it feels long enough, if it feels like there's enough to do, then I'm like, all right, it's done.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think small indie games are the best. And I'm always willing to give a couple more dollars than, I mean, AAA studios are out here trying to charge us $80. So we could find $10 for the indie dev that put some hard work into it. Do you think you would ever work either with a partner or on like a small team?
I don't know. I mean, if I was fully in control, it would either have to be I am fully 100% in control, like I have the final decision, or I have no final decision and there's someone who I trust who is completely in charge of me. Because if I have some say, then I feel like I would just get in a fight with them if we disagreed on things. It was kind of funny. I was with, Adam Pipe, another game developer.
I don't think so.
No Players Online. We were at some game developer convention thing, and there's some workshop where you make like little web game kind of thing, and we're like, oh, let's collaborate on ours. And we started working on it, and immediately we had creative disagreements. I was like, well, no, it should be like this. It's like, no, clearly it should be like this is the whatever. And so, all right, I'm gonna do mine, you do yours. All right, let's do that. It was immediate. I was like, it was kind of funny, but it was like, okay, yeah, I don't think I could work with someone else, because just I have a very specific way of wanting to do things, and then other, I don't know, very creative game developers, I feel like you kind of have to be very opinionated to be a good game developer. So it's kind of hard to collaborate in that way, unless you're in very different fields. Like, I could collaborate with an artist, or with a musician, as long as we're each doing our own complete, domain, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think a lot of people would feel similarly. Like, if you're going to partner, it does kind of need to be with someone that's doing their own thing, or like they have their segment that's going to cover up your weaknesses more so than just like we're both doing the same thing. So that makes a lot of sense. Can you tell me about one of the two games you're working on now, either Camelot 10,000 CE or The Lurking Fear, whichever one you're most excited about today?
Well, Camelot, I'm almost done with. I think I was aiming for releasing it this month, but I'm going to wait till like early January. Basically, it's a dark fantasy typing game, kind of. I've heard some people compare it to Duskers, which I haven't played, but the basic idea is you're like a decayed cyborg knight, and you have to type commands to move and attack. So you type in a command, move, and then you give a coordinate to move to, and it's all real time, fight different creatures, and it's based loosely on like Arthurian mythology, like you're on the Grail quest. And then, yeah, the art's really cool. Also, it's made by Angela Heath, who we've collaborated on a couple games in the past. And really like how the art came out. And then, yeah, that's the main thing. That was kind of a small thing. I wanted to try to release something this year because I hadn't released anything. And then, so almost this year when I release it. But yeah, that was a small side thing. And then, you mentioned the 300 man hours thing. I think it's interesting because this one, I was curious how long it would take me to do an actual like proper small game. And so I timed the whole thing on this one like work hours, it's so far taken me, I think, 112 hours. Probably be like 130 by the time I'm done. So that's, or I guess that's just my side. I don't know how much like Angela did or
Right.
Nestle doing a little writing. Yeah, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna do The Lurking Fear, which is gonna be an adaptation of a really old Lovecraft story, which is like, I mean, with the same name. It's not a Cthulhian one. It was, the basic idea with that was I was making this game and I'm like, instead of writing a story, what if I just found a public domain story? And so I did some digging. I found this one. I'm like, oh, this fits for a survival horror setting. So let's do that. And then, yeah, but that's a lot earlier in development. I do have one video about that up.
Yeah, super cool. With those games, you mentioned that a lot of times you start with a mechanic in mind. Was that true for both of those games as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Camelot was just like, oh, it'd be interesting if you had a game where you had to type your command, like move here, attack here, like how that feels. So I made a little prototype and then it's like, all right, this feels fun. Let's mess with this. And then The Lurking Fear was, what was I doing? I forget the exact thing. It was, I think it was, okay, it was, I wanted to do a top-down shooter where you had to, I think, move your mouse to reload. I think so, because there's a pump action shotgun, and you shoot, and then you have to slide your mouse back and forth towards your character in a way, and it goes, and so it was kind of like some actual physical actions with the mouse for a top-down shooter. And yeah, I was also messing with, and then the reload system would actually pop up the gun, and you have to move the thing, whatever, to like move the bolt on the rifle. And then yeah, that was like the main kind of core idea. I just wanted to mess with something like that. And also I wanted to try doing another game with like rotoscoped graphics, because last time I did that was like 5 years ago with a game called DS Now. It was a top-down shooter. But yeah, just rotoscope graphics, I think it's a cool visual. And then yeah, that was kind of like the two base things I wanted to try.
Yeah, super cool. You've also had quite a bit of success in the horror genre, or horror adjacent at least. And Chris Zukowski, the big marketing guy, he says that everyone should try a horror game. And I think his pitch is one that it just does way better on Steam, but also that it's a little bit easier, I think he would say, of just like making enough content. Would you agree with that everybody should try horror?
I think like it's definitely easier marketing because there's just so many like content creators, YouTubers and streamers and whatever who play horror games, just because it's, entertaining for people. It's a very easy like entertainment sell, like you get scared and then that's your highlight, Also it's really easy to do kind of a visual language for it. It's just like, oh, it's horror. I just put in some creepy, disturbing things. And then there we go. I got my attention grabbing thing. I got my shock value for marketing. And yeah, it's easy to come up with an aesthetic for that. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of what I always thought. If I was starting out, I would just do horror because that's easy to get into. And I guess, yeah, you kind of don't have to be as good at design, I guess, to do horror, because it's more about, I guess, atmosphere and the scares and the aesthetic. So you don't have to make a game that actually feels as good moment to moment. Like I played some small horror games that are mechanically kind of whatever, but they have enough atmosphere and kind of story and stuff to kind of sell it. And yeah, I don't know, I guess it is kind of easier to do. I feel like that is easier. It is a good starting point. It's kind of like how people used to say make a platformer when you start out. I do think if you're doing horror, it's going to be harder to develop your skills in terms of like design, like making interesting mechanics. But yeah, I mean, I was talking about this with Pipe again, and also Hyphenet, who also I have a podcast, I guess. We're talking about it on that, and we're talking about specifically like doing survival horror games, and like we've only done survival horror games kind of, and it was like, well, it's just kind of easy, you just say it's this, and then it's like you can kind of do whatever you want, and it gives you the visuals or aesthetic of, oh, just do a kind of creepy environment, there you go. And then yeah, it is definitely a lot easier. So I would recommend it. I mean, but don't feel like you only have to do that. I think it's a lot easier to make something that's interesting and sellable. And yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Another thing I noticed scrolling through your YouTube channel was that you made the switch to to Godot ahead of the curve several years ago. So are you still making these current games in Godot? And why did you switch, even before Unity made all their crazy decisions, or even if you were even in Unity or not?
I mean, I switched in, was it 2017? Because I was wanting to do a 2D game, and there was just some features they had that Unity didn't, like tile maps. They didn't have that in Unity at the time. And then I had a pretty junky laptop, and so I was running it. I'm like, oh wow, this runs a lot better than Unity does on my, my laptop. And so I just ended up staying with that because it just felt a lot better to use. And then 2018 was when I graduated, and then I was like, oh, I want to make games. Like, how do I build a following? And I was looking, I'm like, well, there's like a few things, but it was one of the things I noticed was if I made a little YouTube video and it was Godot related, I could share it to the Godot subreddit, and then I'd actually get some views. And then I was looking, I'm like, well, there's 20,000 people in the subreddit, I think, and it's probably going to grow. And there's nobody who's really famous here. If I could at least be big in this niche, that would give me a good start. So let me just try building just specifically, I'll just do Godot stuff and I'll promote everything in the subreddit, because most subreddits, they don't like when you self-promote, but there it's like, well, it's Godot content. Everyone likes you for promoting your Godot content, right? So it was like, that was easy to do. It was easy to build a following kind of in that community. So it was like, I'll just stick here, even later when I did Rot Flesh, that was it was pretty hard to do 3D in Godot at that time, but I was like, well, it's a good marketing decision because it's a 3D game in Godot, and now nobody's really doing that. So it's going to be easy to promote it here, and everyone will, follow and wishlist or whatever because it's in Godot. That'll be another marketing selling point.
Yeah, super smart strategic decision. I can definitely see the impetus behind that. I am curious about some of your other strategic decisions. If I could ask you some about just kind of the business side. And for any of these, you can pass and I can cut it out in the edit if it's stuff you don't want to talk about. I think a lot of people that I interview on this channel would say that their dream is to just make stuff full time. That's their dream. Is that true for you? Are you able to make stuff full time?
Yeah, I've been doing full time since end of 2019. That was I had quit my job, I was moving, and then I had another job lined up, and then COVID hit, or right before COVID hit. I don't know, for some reason they weren't responding, and I was like, you know what, let me try to do it on my own for a couple months and see how it goes. And then COVID hit, and then I put out a course right before that, and then it was doing really well, and everything kind of lined up perfectly, and was able to keep doing it since. What else was there? It was just, am I self-employed, or what was it?
Yeah. And then, to follow up on that, if someone was going to kind of follow in your footsteps, what are the kind of steps you took to build that up to be self-sustaining? I know you have a big catalog of small games, and then you also have courses. Kind of what was your strategy as you decided early on that you wanted to do this full time?
I took a long kind of winding path. I've seen it's like the easiest way for me to pay my bills at the start was just, okay, if I'm making courses, right? That was easy to sell. It's not going to have the biggest market, but it paid the bills, paid my rent and groceries and whatever. And so I would do that while slowly building out, making, my big game at the time, Rot Flesh, which I think I should have done more small games. I would have probably gotten, or being able to not rely on courses sooner if I had done that. But yeah, courses were kind of the easiest thing to make money at the start. And then when I was smaller, and then once I had a successful game, and then I was able to do another successful game, and then making more small games once I had a following kind of slowly built up my income, and I was able to do better and better. I would suggest people now, if you're just starting out, find small guaranteed things, kind of reliable things, whatever works, you just stick with that. And then also experiment a little on the side and try out little things it's easier to sell a small course when you're a nobody than it is to sell a game. But once you get bigger, you're going to make a lot more off selling a game than a course. And then, just kind of build slowly and gradually, and don't quit your job until you're actually making money, I would say, or you actually have a following and there's a good chance you're going to be able to make money. I never really took big risks. I was always pretty careful. I built my following initially just when I was working full time. slow and steady. Don't take big risks. Make small games. If you see trends that are working, try hopping on it, see if it works. And if it does, do that, but also keep experimenting. And the whole time you always need to be improving your skills as a game developer, because there's not really any point of getting successful. I mean, like building a big following if you can't actually use that to make games and release games that you want to make. So yeah, divide your time between the business side and the your creative side would be my main recommendation.
Yeah, I think I've heard recently this kind of critique. Like I interviewed a guy that was all about min-maxing for success, mostly talking financially. And he was talking about, this was a part of that 300 hours experiment. And so he was kind of taking the logic of like, how many dollars per hour can I get back out of this? And a somewhat common critique that we got on that interview was that people would say things like, I feel like min-maxing this much takes the joy out of game dev, or, kind of this idea that being business-minded actually detracts from maybe the art of game dev or something like that. Do you at all feel that, or feel any pushback against things like that?
I get the min-maxing thing. I mean, I think it's cool. I don't think I'm able to do it, like mentally. I don't know. Like I've had plans or ideas like that, but it's just I'm not able to function that way. Like for me, it's a lot more of an intuitive process. Like I sit down and I work, and then I got to go do some chores, and then I come back and work, and then we got to go run an errand, and then I come back and work, and then I don't know. There's lots of things going on. I think for me, it's just try to work and also be responsible, and have to be aware of other things. And I don't know. I guess I feel like I mean, I don't know this person's situation, but I feel like you can only really min-max like that if you're single or living alone or kind of thing. And like once I don't know, if you get a house and marriage responsibility, especially, I mean, I don't have kids yet, but like if you have kids, I feel like that kind of lifestyle is not possible. I don't know, maybe it is some people, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. You kind of just have to do the best you can and be smart with your time. And I don't know, I don't really worry about min-maxing because it's just, I feel like if I did, I would just kind of feel bad all the time that I'm not doing as much as I should be doing. I just try to, I work when I can, and I be smart with my decisions. And like, if a game's taking too long, then it's like, okay, what can I cut out to release it because I need to release it so I can, get that income boost or whatever. And just kind of plan for the future, plan for now, but also relax and take it easy. And I don't know. I feel like, I do better work when I'm relaxed and I'm enjoying life also. The more stressed I am, the harder it is to be creative and make good decisions. Yeah, I don't know, kind of rambling, but yeah, that's some thoughts on it.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in this person's defense, they weren't saying min-max in terms of like work as many hours as I can. It was more so just like coming at game dev with a business mindset, essentially. Like, how do I make sure this is profitable? But yeah, you bring up some really good points. We always have to also weigh like the cost on like our psyche and our emotional health and things like that. Like those things also are genuinely important.
I would also say about like the min-maxing thing, I want to be clear, I do respect that. Like I admire business people and people who are able to like do that kind of thing. I have nothing against, I'm not like I don't know, what's an auteur or whatever. I think that's really cool to do. It just, it doesn't work for me. I have to be able to make games that aren't the most optimal thing. I have to be able to do that to be able to like stick with it long term kind of. Yeah,
well, it's still encouraging for me as someone who does maybe want to do that someday to see you who's able to do it in a way that's not the most efficient and still find success and be able to do it. Because I think it would be sad if the only way to go full time was to just do like make exactly the most profitable game, zero love, zero passion. That wouldn't be good. And luckily that's not the case. I'm also curious for you with your back catalog of games, how much those games are able to help sustain you today. Like, do those older games actually still trickle in a little bit of profit, or is it more like you have to continually kind of churn stuff out to actually be getting some income?
Yeah, it's usually, I've noticed every game I make, it does, I don't know, it increases like my monthly income by like $1,000 usually on average. I'm looking up here. Let's see, what did I make for my games? I mean, it varies seasonally. Also, like when there's big sales on Steam, I make more. But I can see that showing units, right? Oh, here we are. All right, so for the past month, like, okay. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It does a lot better in December. Yeah, I can see it spiked up, but we can see Endoparasitic past 31 days has had $6,000 in revenue, right? And that's a 2-year-old game, I think. Endoparasitic 2 did 5,000. Raw Flesh did 2,000. I forget, when did I release that? 2022, I think. So that's 3-year-old game. Now, Voyager 19, I made that in like 5 weeks. That was small, really small, like 1-hour game. It did 1,400 in the last 31 days. And Endoparasitic VR, which I haven't really promoted much, but that did 400. Yeah, and my older games, so like, I don't know, Dance Now, Intersection, those are really old. Those don't really sell. That's like $20 or something. But yeah, all my like bigger games that have done well, it's usually like 1,000 a month minimum. So it's like, I guess that's one of my like arguments for small games is it's like, well, if I make a small game, that increases my monthly revenue by 1,000. Oops. Does this pick up when I bump my mic? Do you hear it? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think you're good.
Okay, good. But it's like I do a small game and increases my monthly revenue by like $1,000. So it's kind of like, oh, that's a reliable way of giving myself a bonus, or increasing my salary, right? And it's also the bonus when you first release it, there's a big spike in sales. So it's kind of like, okay, that's encouragement to release more. But then by doing that, I have a much lower chance of getting the big hit or whatever that makes $1 million.
Sure.
Or several million or whatever.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those numbers. That's really generous. And I mean, even like the Voyager game, that's really impressive that a game you spent 5 weeks on is still continuing to give you 1,400 a month. I mean, that seems very successful. Like a lot of people would love to have an extra $1,400 a month.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's fantastic numbers. With the games that you partnered with people, either for writing or art, have you ever done any kind of Rev-share stuff, or is it always just like strict contract work for you?
Just strict contract work. I considered Rev-share, but I think I have nothing against it. It's just, for me, it seems like too much work to have to manually go through and calculate how much, how much did they make, what percentage, and then I have to do that. If it was like automated, I wouldn't mind it so much. But also, I guess it would make me sad to look at my income and be like, oh, actually, it's this much. I got to subtract this percentage. Like, I mean, I just told you how much, I got. And then it's like, okay, well, it's actually minus 30% for Steam. So it's not that much. And then also there's going to be, I don't know, 5% refunds or whatever.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's a feature Steam needs, the ability to divvy out funds to somebody else, but then maybe not also, because then, like you said, it's smaller paychecks for whoever the base developer is. Does YouTube play any role for your income stream at all, or is that more of just like kind of a marketing tool for you?
Much. I mean, I could see, actually, I don't think I've made very much. I think I showed somebody else my CPM and they were pretty shocked at how low it was. I think I get like 80 cents per 1,000 views, maybe not even that anymore.
Yeah.
Let's see. I didn't put in my last, but my total, I made less than $1,000 in ad revenue this year off of YouTube. Almost 1,000. Actually, I probably made 1,000 by now. I didn't check what my latest was, but yeah, it's pretty low. But I guess I didn't really post it all this year. I could see what I think I posted more last year. I could see what my total was. It was 2,700 about for last year. So that's, not bad. I'm not going to complain about that, but it's compared to like how much I made off my games is, nothing almost.
Yeah. So it sounds like moving forward, YouTube's pretty much just a promotional tool at this point. Yeah. Are you doing any like trailer content still? Like, do you ever just have ideas that you want to put out there, or kind of where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, I've done devlog. I mean, I just do devlogs, I guess. And I did do a video. I mean, that should have been a second channel video, I guess. I did a video on like all the business side of things you need to do in game development. Let's see, that was called, where's my videos? yeah, just a complete guide to the business side of indie game dev, which was just like going over business accounts and business type, company types, and whatever. Because I'd never seen anyone talk about that, so I was like, oh, I would like to do that. But yeah, it wasn't really great for promoting my games. But I do want to do more. I feel like at this point, I guess once you get big enough, it's like you feel like you kind of get this identity for your channel. And I'm like, well, I feel like I can't really experiment that much anymore. Like if I do, I need to do a second channel, right? So I'm like, should I start doing second channel videos, or should I just post it on my main channel? And then also it's like, well, if I spend a day doing that, that's a day I don't spend making my game. Is it really worth it? You know, like maybe the video blows up for some reason and then I get a million views and that would be great, but it probably won't. So is it worth it when I could just make a game? Yeah. Also, I don't really enjoy making videos as much as games. So it's like, or really that much at all. So I'm like, but maybe it would be good if I did it because then I'd enjoy it more. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just not as much of a passion for me to do. I would like to. I like the concept of making videos, but it's just, yeah, I don't know. Another responsibility, I guess, feels like.
Yeah, definitely a lot of considerations, especially once you reach a critical mass where your games are more financially successful too, even. So that makes a lot of sense. You also mentioned a little bit earlier that you do a podcast. Do you do that like with guest interviewees, or like just you and your friend, or what's your setup?
So it's we're trying to post more this year. We just got back into it after like 2 years, I think. Yeah, it's Adam Pipe, Hyphenate, and then that's like my co-hosts, and then we bring on some random guest every time, and that's it. We just chat on Discord, and then we bring in questions. And yeah, I mean, I just started that during COVID because I was like, once I started getting a following, I was like, oh, there's all these cool game developers out there I'd like to be friends with. I need an excuse to be friends with them. How about I start a podcast? And then that was kind of the whole point, was just to like anyone I wanted to be friends with, like any game developers I admired, I would just be like, hey, would you like to come on and we can chat? And then that was it. And then by having multiple people, it's like, I feel like kind of, I mean, no offense, but I feel like most podcasts do like an interview format. And I was like, I want to just kind of chat and hang out with other developers. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. If I bring on a couple of co-hosts who are also developers, then it's easier to do. Like we're just chatting and hanging out. If it's one-on-one, it's going to be more like an interview, you know? And then, yeah, so it worked out for what I wanted to do, which is, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I love the idea of having like kind of multiple hosts. And then I do think it's probably a lot less intimidating to join, just because it's like you're not really on the spot. You're just like hanging out, which is such a cool, different vibe. Because I think like a lot of people are jumping on the podcast trend, honestly. Like even a lot of the big YouTubers are doing the one-on-one podcast. And it's because the content is good and it's fun to make the content, I think. But it is like there's a lot more out there. What's the name of the podcast? You could drop it so people can check it out.
Yeah, I make games.
Yeah, I make games, or make games.
Yeah, I make games. Yeah.
Yeah, I make games. Super cool.
Yeah.
Have you found anything in particular that like works really well, either with the audience or anything that like the guests have really enjoyed that you've done?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't like put enough effort in, I feel like, again, it was just mostly an excuse to meet and be friends with other developers I liked. But I think the format, everyone kind of likes the format, which was just, everybody who comes brings one question, like topic to discuss. And then, so we each just take turns. Okay, here's my topic. Let's talk about this. And then we each take turns, like giving our opinions on it. And then, yeah, it's just kind of fun to hang out and like, you know, what's the best way to design this? Or what do you think about this trend going on or whatever? And then it's just like what I said earlier about it's fun to watch people who are good at something be good at that thing. So it's fun to listen to people who are like an expert on something, just kind of give their opinions on random things, you know, in that field.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I also now selfishly wanted to ask that question because I now, you know, I run this podcast out of a Discord server and most of the people just stay in it. And so, you know, I've got some ideas for some like developer roundtable kind of discussions once I get enough people, but I'm also like, I have no idea how I would manage that, especially as like a one person host with a bunch of people that don't know each other. I don't know if it would work. That's why I haven't tried it yet. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I have this Discord of like a bunch of awesome devs, and I would love
Hmm.
to find a way to utilize that and make some interesting content for people. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever do it or
Yeah.
not, but
I definitely think it's a good idea. I mean, there needs to be more of that because, yeah, right now it's just all pretty much every podcast I've seen and being a part of it's just like the one-on-one kind of interview format.
Mhm.
And I think there's definitely there's room for more stuff. Something I've done, not as part of the podcast, that was fun though, was just like, what's it called? Scribble.io, I think. You know that? Or what is it?
Like a game.
Yeah, it's like the web game.
Yes, I've
What's it
played this, I
called? You
think.
like draw.
I think it's Scribble with no E at the end, I think, or something
Gartic
like
Phone,
that.
that's what I'm thinking, not Scribble.
Okay,
Gartic Phone.
also fun. I've also played that one.
Yeah. So I got some devs together and we played Gartic Phone like on stream a few times.
Yeah.
And like that kind of game, I'm like, oh, it'd be fun to see like more people do something like that where you just get developers together and you do some game and then something that could be development related without actually having to put in all the work to make a game for like a challenge video or something.
Yeah,
Something casual.
that's a super good idea because I do think developers bring a unique take to the world in the way they
Mhm.
develop things. But yeah, everything like you said is like a massive commitment. Like make a game for this challenge,
Yeah.
which is like a huge time sink
Yeah.
to take
Yeah.
time away from your other projects. And so I'm not interested in doing anything like that. And it would be too much work editing for me. And I hate editing. So selfishly, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, you've given me some really interesting ideas. I'll have to chew on those a
Feel
little
free to
bit.
steal. I don't mind when people take my ideas ever.
Yeah. Don't want to steal your content or anything like that for sure. But I appreciate that. That's very
Yeah.
generous of you. Well, I don't have any much else to ask. Is there anything that I have not asked you about that you feel like you would have to have a lot to say about?
I don't know. Oh, something I thought of earlier that was just an interesting side thing. You said you like the 4Devs series. I just mentioned that actually was inspired by, I think, Andrew Huang, some music YouTuber. He had a series, 4 producers mix the same sample, so you get like some music sample, and then 4 people would remix that into a song. And so I saw that, and then he mentioned that he was inspired by another series, which was 4 photographers shoot the same model. And then I watched that and I was like, wow, these are really cool. I wonder, like, it would be cool to do something game development related like this. And then that's where that series came from, was, yeah, from watching that. And I was like, oh, let's come up with something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll have to check those out. That's like the best kind of like feeling like an
Mm.
artist, if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
Like you taking that idea is going to take 0% away from the photography channel,
Yeah.
or from the music channel, but you also like shared in this kind of content, and then maybe someone
Mhm.
else has watched yours and turned that into a new format
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
haven't even seen. Who knows?
Yeah. I've seen some
Yeah.
people have also done that multiple Devs One Artkit thing, which is really cool to see because I know people like it and I just don't have the time or energy to do it myself. So I'm glad when other people do it.
Yeah, it's a really cool series, and yeah, seriously, if no one's checked it out, go just look at it because the diversity of games that come out of it is always just like blows my mind what people do with it. Well, let me end you with this one final question. I know that you're a full-time developer, and some might say that's living the dream, so to speak. But for you in this season of life, I've created this podcast to kind of inspire myself and others to keep following their dreams of game dev. But for you, what would you say is your game dev dream in this season of life?
I mean, just more money. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the main thing right now is because I'm 30 now, so I'm like, okay, probably gonna have more responsibilities as I get older and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I just want to build up enough money that I don't have to worry about money for like several years if I don't have to. And then just kind of, I would like to get to a point where I can work with other people or like have people work under me so I have less responsibilities if possible. So things can kind of coast if I'm not able to work and things can still get made. So yeah, I guess being able to get more done, work with other people, and make lots of more money, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's a great dream. I hope you're able to make it a reality. Thank you for joining me today. I really had fun today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you've made it through this entire conversation, you are the real MVP. Now, in order to confuse all the normies, I think we should have a secret emoji to put down in the comment section. I just learned today that ChatGPT will essentially break if you tell it to show you a seahorse emoji. So put in the comment section whatever emoji you think most looks like a seahorse. Also, if you're still watching and you want to continue listening to great game dev conversations, YouTube thinks that you would enjoy this video on the screen. Thanks for watching. You're the best.